Looking at the height of my side, a beauty that you cannot deny. Oh, I love the Serengeti as I watch the sunrise. No matter where you're coming from.
And we're back. Okay. I will sit back and let you go ahead and finish your spiel.
My spiel. So
Yes.
I'm in a different location. I was kicked out of the living room, so now I'm in my daughter's room. So as you see, this ain't my room, it's my daughter's room. But
Hey, we know you're a parent.
yeah, hey, you know what I'm saying? Love that. So look, basically my point is this, that I'm not going to move to Africa to be around people that aren't from there originally. So like I don't want to practice go from America and then practice separatism or something like that. It's just not me. And as far as what I say elitist, I don't necessarily mean elitist in like the negative connotation, but just like upper class people. I've never been that in my life. You know what I'm saying? I'm just a regular dude. So I want to live around regular people,
Okay, so you don't feel that there's regular people in the southern part of Africa? I'm just asking for the collective.
Well, yeah, of course, but Southern Africa is not where my ancestry comes from, so I don't have any interest in that. That's like a
Okay.
Bulgarian talking about they want to go to uh no what Spain. It's all Europe. They're all white, but they literally have nothing in common.
Okay. Can you agree? However, can you agree that if persons in the diaspora are saying they want to move onto the continent and they are looking for an equitable living situation in terms of not having to diminish any facet of their life, they can get that in the southern part of Africa?
Well, they can get that in West Africa as well.
The contention is that they can't. And I'm saying every facet of your life that you are getting where you currently are, they can have that. It can be equitable across the board.
Right.
Southern part of Africa. That's what I'm saying.
I mean, it's possible, definitely. I mean,
No,
there's
they can get it. I'm telling you, they can get it.
and that's what possible means. It means something can be done, which
Yes,
it literally means what you're saying.
But you say it like, how you will say, well, anything is possible. No,
No. I'm saying it's definitely possible, but we go back to your money being right. Your money has to be right. And a lot of these people are making these emotional decisions to go to whatever part of the continent, and they're not financially prepared. That's it. If you want to go to South Africa, Namibia, whatever country, and be around people that look like you, so to speak, then you can do that. I mean, you're going to have to pay more for those amenities because, let's be honest, to live the same lifestyle that I live here, anywhere on a continent would be much more expensive.
Likely.
Definitely.
Likely. All I'm
And the credit system, they don't have a credit system in a lot of these countries. So you got to go down there with bank and have a steady stream of bank, as opposed to where in the West we have lines of credit, which there's a good part and a bad part of that.
They have that as well, though. Now, this is what I'm saying. Everything that you have in the West, I gave you 3 countries that you can get all that. 3 of them. Namibia, Botswana, South Africa. You can have all that.
Okay.
You can have that. So I'm saying it's feasible, but people have to. You said it earlier when you were talking about determining the reasons for doing this. And I'm saying they have that option if they don't want to lose any standard of living.
Mm-hmm.
And they want it to be 100% the same from where they come from in the West. They got 3 choices to get it. And they can have all that. So so one, there's no excuse if that's what you're saying that you want. But again, as you noted earlier, what is your reason for doing this?
Right.
I mean, so people have to determine. I've lived in a lot of places across Mother Earth. And so I recognize, I know what I can and cannot live with. So what's normal for me is not normal for you. One, you have a family, I don't. So
right.
our lines are not going to be linear in that. We may have some things that are seamless, but not in totality. So
right.
I understand that. So what I'm willing to give up, you may not be willing to give up, and vice versa. So
absolutely,
I'm just saying people have options, but they have to stop with the what does I want to say? I want people to stop saying, well, they don't have this, that, and the third, because you can have this, that, and the third, and then some going on down south. That's all I'm saying. People can have everything that they're contending, they can have it down south. They can. But I recognize people that are doing their complaining at times about that. They don't want to go down there. And what is the real reason you don't want to go there? I say it's merely finance. But hey, that's just me.
Now, it could be finance, or it could be that they don't have any connection there. Like, this is where the a lot of people look at Africa. They say, well, Africa's a continent when you're speaking about specific issues, but then they want to make the whole continent, one, when they want to make a different point. So it can't be fluid.
True. That's true.
So we're gonna stick to West Africa, specifically Ghana, because that's the only place that I've been, but I've studied the whole of Africa, even though I'm not interested in moving to the southern part or even the western part at this point until they do right by their people. Is that, look, we're going to have to get into it. If you keep saying South Africa, no, there's not going to be the same level that I have here for the same money. And then you also have to factor in the security issue. You look at any of these houses that look nice. They have top-notch security. They have armed guards sitting, living with them a lot of times. There's a lot of hijacking on the highways. If we're going to dive into South Africa, let's talk about it.
Do it.
Okay, so I just said it. So what's your counter to that? Like right now, I don't have bars on my windows. I don't have any of that. I don't have any of that.
So my counter to that, and you're going to say something, but it is what it is.
Yeah, go on.
You cannot name me a country on earth that has no crime.
No. And look, when people say like a perfect planet or the perfect place on a planet, if that existed, it wouldn't be perfect. You know why? Because then it'd be overcrowded.
It'd be overcrowded.
Because everybody would want to be there. You know what I'm saying? So I got you.
True.
I got you. But every place has their ills and their problems.
Yes.
But give me the problems that I know how to navigate, as opposed to problems that I don't know. And then I have to relearn something as a 47-year-old man with a family, kids, and a wife. So that's why I'm saying, like, our situations are different. I couldn't move to South Africa because if I did get into a nice place, it'd have to be gated. Why do you think, the nice places in West Africa, they're called compounds?
Compounds.
Because you literally have to shield yourself from everyone. I owned a house in the Caribbean, and the first thing that we had to do was get this huge gate to keep everyone out. Why? Because you might be doing well. But if you're doing well and people in the next neighborhood are not, guess where they're coming to get that money?
From you. They come not.
Nah, and then they're going to leave. They're going to leave the same way they came.
Okay, so here's the caveat to that. And
Yeah.
again, in all of transparency,
Right.
all of the countries I have personally visited, they all the bulk of the homes are in these compounds.
Right.
So I'm now that's not so for us it's different because we'll put fences up because maybe we have a pool or we like the wrought iron look. Maybe it could be for aesthetic purposes, not necessarily all the time for security. So I get what you're saying for that. I do. I understand. But I'm just letting you
We
know.
call them gated communities. And to get into a gated community, you got to go past security all the time. So there is not a place in South Africa that is inhabited by majority black people that you can compare to Prince George's County, Maryland, which is exactly that. Inhabited by mostly black people, upper middle class, and you can just drive in and drive out. A lot of the houses there don't even have gates. There's no fences. It's just, normal. You got your neighbor, hey neighbor, blah, blah, blah.
Agree. No,
okay, so this is my point.
I will concede.
That's my point.
Okay. See, I can be transparent about that. So
I appreciate you, sis.
So here's the next piece of that. And this is actually deviating a bit from the topic about the businesses and how the diaspora are actually moving onto the continent and everything. I'm sure you've seen recently in the news what has happened with the leader of INFAC.
Yes.
So as a black man who is from the United Snakes of America, okay?
I don't know that country. Where is that?
Yeah, whatever. Play with it. Play with it now.
No, I'm not playing. You playing.
Play with it.
It's called the United States of America, and you're allowed to move across the world. No, you say United Snakes. United Snakes.
That's what I said. Now, what you heard is what you heard. But I said.
Okay, I got you.
But as a black man, and that being your home, in history, recorded history, anytime you've had a black man to rise where he is trying to uplift his people, we can go talking about Medgar Evers to current, okay? What you have seen is that these men have been taken down. COINTELPRO never died. The name changed. So fast forward to today, 2020, and this man has now ultimately been released on, I believe he's on bond with the state charges or whatever. How he galvanized black people to practice their First Amendment rights in mass unison. Seeing what's happening, do you think whenever he is allowed to speak, because of course one of his conditions for release was to stay off social media. Do you think, because he talked about previously about persons in all these other countries aiding his mission, he's going to come on and say it's time to go home, and the people that follow him actually move on that? What are your thoughts about that as a black man?
When he said it's time to go home, what did he mean?
Going up there, Kebulon. He's been talking about this since the last, not when he was at the Kentucky Derby, the first one that he did with Breonna Taylor. After that, he had been mentioning this in his subsequent ones, and as you know, he kept being censored. They kicked him off Twitter, kicked him off Instagram and all this, and he basically used someone else's Instagram so that the people who are actual members of INFAC could come in and get his messages. Now, we got some IT savvy brothers who could have set him up on some different groups, some different platforms with a website. He could have been broadcasting his own, but that's neither here nor there. Anyway, I'm asking what you feel about that as a black man from the States.
Okay, so I'm going to start.
Yeah, go ahead and laugh. I don't care.
It's all right. I'm shaking a finger at you, a judgmental finger. No, but my thing with that, I'm going to start from the behind, is from the last part of your question. Let's say that.
Okay.
my understanding with the Israelites was that they say that they're not or they don't come from Africa. So I don't understand why an Israelite, because I believe he's an Israelite, would say go back home and be mentioned in Africa. That's
I don't
number
know
one.
about an Israelite, but go ahead. Okay.
Okay, so let's take that off the table. So
Okay.
the issues that I had with him is that number one, he spoke too much. Real
Mm.
bad boys move in silence. You don't get on in front of cameras that are waiting for you to say something stupid and say that you've been in talks with this government, that government. George Bush would call those places that he's mentioned the axis of evil. So you over there chopping it up with the axis of evil, so called, and then saying, yeah, they're in talks, and this sounds like you're trying to overthrow the country. Okay.
Mm.
Now, I'm not even going to say what my personal thing about that is because I'm not going to commit the same error that he did. But
Okay.
sometimes you speak less and do more. Now, what was he arrested for?
They
He was
said that
pointing his
he pointed
gun.
a gun at some agents on a building. I mean,
Yes. Okay. So I think that's a trumped up charge, honestly.
okay.
But in the worst, it's a trumped up charge. In the least, he has horrible gun discipline. You don't point that thing at nobody unless you're ready to bust. And that's why he was arrested. So if you looked at NFAC, I support what they were doing, but not how they did it.
Okay.
Okay. And I said, the first one, Stone Mountain, they looked a little raggedy. The second one, they started to get it together, and then
Yes.
one of them shot each other because what? They didn't have gun discipline. So when you're walking in unison, and then you got to rest every 5 minutes, you're sitting with one knee on the floor with your barrel on the ground while you're resting all your weight on it. This tells me you don't have what? Gun discipline. So now when you're gonna, put a whole bunch of people together and say that they must be armed, y'all have there's things that go into place before that. You don't get on the front line armed, challenging people, and then you don't have basic gun discipline down. In Stone Mountain, he was walking with like two 22 caliber. They look like semi-automatics. Two of them
Yes.
at once. There's literally no tactical reason that he would do that. There was no tactical explanation for him to be carrying two at one time.
At one
You have
time.
you have a primary weapon and you have a secondary. So
Secondary.
your secondary would be your pistol.
Or your
You see
Glock.
what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yeah. So he's walking around with two big long guns for no reason. They didn't have any scouts in the front. They had no one flanking them on the sides in the woods. I didn't see nobody operating a drone to see if them people he called out were way ahead. So on that tip, he was wrong. He stopped with a guy and started speaking to a white guy that was in a car that was trolling him. And the white guy just looked at him like, yeah. And he's like, yo, let me get out of here he talked too much. And unfortunately, that's a problem with us black men, is that we talk too much and we get too emotional. And I'm guilty of that too at times, right?
Okay.
But when I'm on the front line, because I literally, the group that I formed out here. So this was in effect before, in fact, and we train. Okay, we don't use social media. When I speak of social media, it's everything within the lines of the Dutch self-defense laws.
Gotcha.
We don't negate from that. There are technicalities, right? We are silent protesters, so that you don't open yourself up to become accused as being vigilantes or security with no security license. So there's a game. You got to know how to play that game. And the first rule of that game is to speak less and do more.
Okay. So one thing you said, I understand that because I have to respect you. You're a black man and he's a black man. I'm not going to qualm about, big experiences. I'm sure as black men in America. See, I said it for you.
Thank you.
Are similar in lots of facets. you mentioned about the discharging of the weapon. I know
Right.
people who are retired SEALs, etc., etc. There's always a discharging of the weapon with trained soldiers. So to
Right.
me, in that instance, that really didn't alarm me. But what it did alarm me was like the physical health of some of the folks. And so
Boom.
I think like what you were saying, that does have some type of validity on them in the heat of the day, walking and having all of that gear on, because heavy, hot. If you're not hydrating, that part.
Right.
Yeah. So I just wanted to see, just because that seems to be the climate of what's happening right now, and what your thought processes was on the particular subject matter.
So because you brought it up, I'm sorry, sis, because you brought it up, I spoke on it. But when it came out, I was tempted to do a video on it. But part of being on code is if I don't have anything positive to say about my brother, I'd rather not say anything. So I gave them the benefit of the doubt, saying that they were going to clean up their formations, that they were going to get rid of those clown masks, that they were going to upgrade their weapons. There were people out there look like guns from the Civil War, that they would get people who were in health, of a good shape, not people with their guts hanging out, people with all different kind of flags and red, black, and green shotgun shells. That's showy. You're going out there for a photo op and you're calling out Pink Panthers who get busy for real. If you go to these gun ranges, you don't see us. You can't just get on the front line with people who's probably never really shot that gun, who don't know how to maintain it, all that stuff. It was just like a recipe for disaster, and I'm glad that it didn't end up disastrous for the people around them, except for the person who got popped. But this is not something that you should take lightly. I'm gonna tell everybody this. Like, what do you guys think paintball and airsoft is?
Yes.
That's people doing military training in real time legally. In fact, should have been paintballing together. Airsofting together for months, so that they can get. First thing that I started with my group was communication standards. How you can use social media. What can you say? What you can't say. Radio 10 codes. Got radios. Every single thing that you need to have. And also contingency plans. Whenever we got on the front line, we'd go there the night before to look at points of entrance and egress. Find out who's there. We had members
that's called recon. That's called recon.
Recon intel. And with that intel, you don't run your mouth. You let them talk. So all the Nazis were talking and this and that and saying this. Okay, cool. We're just listening and just based on what they're saying, we know how we needed to rock. But when you get someone that's emotional, that's talking, because I understand why my brother will be emotional, because you have to be emotional based on you have to feel a certain way based on what's going on with our people. But when you stand on the front lines, there is no time for being emotional.
You're saying at that point when it's like showtime, emotion is to be put aside.
I don't call it showtime, I call it go time. When it's go time,
but I got you. But I'm just saying.
Yeah, it's showtime. It looks like when they were, they were making photo ops. You couldn't bring no photos. No pictures, no cameras, no recording, because I said if we do that, they're gonna confiscate it, and then they're gonna be getting everybody's. So none of that. The only photos they got of me was is when I have my face covered like this. I use it in some of the videos. That was the media. We don't take pictures like, we're gonna do this and we're gonna do that. No, because you're delivering yourself to them. And my brother was just, I understand the heat of the moment, and he's a military dude. I've never even been in the military, but I study military strategy.
Yes.
So when he was talking so much, when brothers was out there just being a little showy, I just said, this ain't gonna end well. And it didn't. But I think the charges they got on him, the feds, for the most part, take no losses. When they get you, it took them 3 months to write this up. They're in cahoots with the prosecutors and everything like that. So they're gonna make sure that case sticks before they even get you. And what they really want to do is muzzle him. Yes. And they've done it. But if he has a contingency plan, it shouldn't matter.
They haven't muzzled him on radio. They've only muzzled him on social media.
Okay. So I'm telling you, he ain't going to be saying anything. Trust me. But it shouldn't matter because there should be a chain of command. There should be a chain of command. And once you get all that in order, then you can avoid that stuff. Like I remember one place we went to Diemen. It's a place in Amsterdam, the Belmer. This is where all the black people live, right?
Okay.
And these Nazis said they were gonna come through and do this like blackface sort of thing, right? Okay. So and it was like, yo, we coming to the hood. So what y'all gonna do? She was like, oh yeah, okay. So we was out there deep, and I organized the whole thing. And at the end, they was like, yo, let's make a video so we can talk and, tell, basically call them out that they didn't come. I said, no, I'm not doing that. I said, first of all, it's not my hood. Second of all, I'm not doing this for the show. So one brother did it with a face mask and everything. Don't you know these Nazis found out who he was based on his voice and this and that? And that video that they asked me to speak on is viral in the Netherlands. Viral. You see what I'm saying? That I saw that from a mile away. I'm not getting up there talking or not. Real bad boys move in silence.
Okay. Well, I just wanted
to. So this is really my thing. This kind of stuff. This is where I get busy.
Well, you also mentioned. I've never been in the military too, but I have a lot of friends who are specialists and skilled in lots of ways.
Right.
And these folk, that. But I just because that is actually the that's what's happening right now in the current media cycle, and I just wanted to know what your take on it was, just considering being a black man from America. And, I mean, as I said, all of these prominent leaders who have been trying to do for their people, they always seemed up to be taken out way before.
But we got to be smarter. We have to be smarter.
Totally. I'm not negating any of that. There's certain rules and as they say, people always tell you to read the book, the Art of War, and you can take out real life. You can put real life situations into that book, and basically lays out how you should move and do certain things. Mm-hmm. But
also 48 Laws of Power. If you haven't read 48 Laws of Power, read that book. You ever heard of 48 Laws of Power?
Of course. I haven't read it not in totality.
Right.
But it's been years ago. Yeah. Definitely. Well, I want to thank you for joining us today here, giving us your take on all things diaspora.
Right.
And it's just always good to have a good jive. It's, I like to engage with people whether we agree on everything or not. That is, if we all thought alike, did alike, we would be such boring people. And there's really nothing about me that's boring. Or as you said but as you said about the utopian country, it would be overflowing and flooded with people. It'd
be overcrowded. So there are no utopias. Utopia is what you make it. You know what I'm saying? We as black people, we populated the earth essentially. So wherever I lay my hat is my home. As long as my family are good, I'm good. I don't have to have this romanticized. I got to go back to Africa. Look, I'm not going to lie and say that Africa is not on my mind. It literally is always on my mind. Right. But when you really, really get into it and you start thinking like, look, man, we all know what the problem in Africa is. The whole continent, Black Africa, North Africa. I don't care about, right? But it's the leadership. It's the leadership. And me as a Black man from America cannot jump into politics. That's one thing that we're gonna have to mind our business with, because we don't know the ins and outs, right?
Right.
But we know that there's an issue there, and that issue has to be dealt with by the indigenous people of those countries. And once they get the ball rolling, then we can jump in. Like, I love Julius Malema. He's from South Africa. He's from the EFF. There's a guy named Yeboah from Ghana. He has like a sister party to the EFF in Ghana. I love these kind of brothers, right? But I'm gonna have to love them from a distance. Listen and pay attention. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I do. It's just best to watch. The man who speaks less and listens more is the man that you want on your team. So I just hope any brothers that are listening that have a military mindset, one of the first things that you got to do is get your intel, and you can only get that is if you listen and not speak.
Okay, and thank you for joining us.
I'm talking all that military stuff in a pink room, right?
Yes, you are.
It's all right.
Okay.